Okay, this is a short video on Chapter 2, Ethics and Social Responsibility in your Business Principles course. So I'm going to take you out to my notes, and here's what you should see when you download the notes for this chapter. I always start out with a little introductory thing, usually at the top, to kind of tell you what this chapter is about. Basically, this chapter is about two things. It's split up into two sections. First is business ethics. The second half is about social responsibility. So you will find these subjects in a lot of your courses, whether they're just touched on or they have an entire chapter like this course does, but most courses will cover ethics in the course. So most business courses. So anyway, I give you a definition here of ethics, and all of us have some moral standards that we have developed from usually from our parents or family, or from our work experiences, or from religion. There's a lot of places that you pick up your morals, and then when you apply those to business, of course, you have business ethics. So setting a set of moral standards for judging whether something is right or wrong, that's your ethics. And then when you apply them to business, that's business ethics. I don't think this is actually given over in the textbook, so definitely need to mark that there. I listed a few things that could give you trouble ethically in a job. Things like taking things that don't belong to you. That could be a crime. That could be something that where a person actually steals something. But it could be something like, what about using company equipment at home? Or what about stealing company time? So, I mean, it could be things that are not as obvious as something like stealing would be. Saying things that are not true, or giving a false impression. I'm going to give you a good example of this one here in a minute, but things like, what if you lie on your resume? Is that unethical? So I'll give you a good example of one that's happening right now. Hiding information or divulging confidential information. If you work for a company and you work with, maybe product information that's sensitive, you don't want a competitor to see that information. What duties do you have to your company? And we cover this in business law. And but anyway, that could be an ethical dilemma. Buying influence or taking a bribe. A lot of countries, taking a bribe or making a bribe or taking a bribe, that's just the way you do business. And in the U.S., we do have this problem, of course, but in most people, I think, would think that is an unethical way to do business. Conflicts of interest, putting your own interest ahead of the interest of the company. So, there are a lot of conflicts of interest that could occur. One I use in business law a lot is like if you're sitting on the board of directors and you have to, hand out contracts, and you hand out contracts to maybe for something to your brother-in-law, you have a conflict of interest there. Intimidating or being unfair to a coworker. So, this could be anything. This could be, other than, it could be bullying, which we see quite often now, or harassment. Or I wrote both of those in here, like harassment or sexual harassment. But it could be something as simple as assigning someone less desirable work schedules or assignments, maybe not applying the pay scale fairly, not applying equal pay for equal work. So there are a lot of things that could be in there that are unethical, could get you into trouble with ethics. Anyway, violating company rules or society's laws, condoning unethical actions of others, standing by while someone else does something unethical that's not ethical, permitting your organization to harm the environment, employees, or other stakeholders. So there's a lot of things that could get you into trouble ethically. So anyway, the main thing is when you reach a point where you've got to decide whether something is unethical or not, you got to apply your standards to it and the company's code of ethics to it, and make a decision. So anyway, it says the action of a person takes based on many factors such as a person's ethical philosophies and morals, and we talked about where you get those. And then society at a certain time and period of time in history may believe that certain things are okay, and you may believe that they are or they're not. And then the opportunity to make an unethical decision. Sometimes companies put together training and ethics hotlines and all kinds of things just to curb the opportunity to make an unethical decision. So anyway, I'm going to go over a few things here. I think I'll put these links out for you underneath this video, but let me just go over a few things that you probably heard of. This company Enron, and I'll put the link to this video. But this company Enron, back in the early 2000s, they're out of Houston. We're out of Houston. Basically, what they were doing was they would get a contract and they would write that amount of the contract down as revenue, but they hadn't actually brought that money in yet. So it was showing the company to be valued higher and more profitable than they really were at the time. So this company actually went bankrupt. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their retirement. So I'll put you a link to that so you can read more or watch more about that. You may not know much about Bernie Madoff, but Bernie Madoff, again, was a historical Ponzi scheme, part of a historical Ponzi scheme where he basically he got investors to invest, and then he would get the next set of investors to invest and pay off a little bit of the first set of investors, and then he get the third set of investors and pay off some of the first ones and the second ones. And, there was no investment being made at all. And so he was just taking money from Peter to pay Paul, basically. And so anyway, you can read or watch more about the Bernie Madoff scandal. In 2016, you might remember the Wells Fargo scandal, where Wells Fargo had quotas set up for their employees for getting so many new accounts every month. And so what they were doing is encouraging their employees to just create fake accounts or create accounts with, some of their customers' names, and the customer didn't even know they had this credit card or this account, and then charge, they might be charged a service fee or something and not even know about it. So Wells Fargo company still in business, but anyway, they give you another one you can read about. This one, I'm just going to play a little. This is brand new. Last few months, last month, you've seen FTX in the news a lot, going through a bankruptcy. But FTX cryptocurrency is basically did not have a backing for the currency. And so if you have unsecured securities that are backing something, who's going to be left responsible when that goes down? Well, whoever is bought into this. But anyway,
you know what? Tom Brady, Gisele Bundchen, Larry David, Naomi Osaka, and Steph Curry are among the celebrities accused in a class action lawsuit of being part of a, quote, fraudulent scheme designed to take advantage of unsophisticated investors that led to $11 billion in damages.
It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto. I don't think so.
All stemming from their involvement in promoting crypto exchange FTX. FTX's founder and CEO Sam Bankman-Fried was until recently the darling of the crypto community. His company, once valued at more than $32 billion, is now seeking bankruptcy protection.
We're talking about one of the larger bankruptcies we've seen in a long time.
The FTX founder, also named in the lawsuit, resigned as CEO as his company collapsed. He did not reply to NBC's request for comment, but in a direct message exchange with a reporter wrote,
Okay, so basically, FTX is another example of a Ponzi scheme, and so Bernie Madoff wasn't the first one to do it, and FTX and Bankman-Fried is not going to be the last one to ever try to do it. But here's another example of one you saw in the news. You're seeing in the news right now. George Santos, a Republican congressman from New York, just sworn into his position in the last couple of weeks, and come to find out he has lied on his resume about all kinds of things. So let me play a little of that.
While Santos keeps trying to escape reporters in the halls of Congress, the stack of investigation into, and this is the most crucial thing, his very strange campaign finances keep piling. He's already under local and federal investigation. Today, Talking Points memo reported the FEC sent the Santos campaign over 20 letters, notifying it of issues with its campaign filings. Also noting his filings include line items for what appear to be personal expenses, including meals, clothing, and rent. Multiple meals took place in the DC casino. And there's a staggering amount of fantastical tales George Santos has told for the year, saying he caught a severe early case of COVID, even though he was on TV 4 days later, claiming to be a quote proud American Jew. His parents fled Hitler, even though he's actually Catholic and has no Jewish ancestors as far as we can tell from the records. That he owned 13 different properties when he's never been a landlord. Or claiming in a resume he gave to local Republican leaders back in 2020 that he worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, he did not, and went to NYU and Baruch College, he doesn't have a college degree.
Okay, so just as an example, as examples there, this person's lying on his resume. He did get elected, and is now serving in the House of Representatives for now. So there's all kinds of ethical things that you could get into in business and outside of business, I guess. But I just wanted to give you some examples. They give you a lot of examples in the textbook, but let's go back to the notes now. So it says, how can organizations encourage ethical conduct? Well, probably the biggest way that they can encourage ethical conduct is leading by example. If the people that are in leadership positions are teaching the people below them how to act ethically, you have less of a chance of someone breaching the code of ethics. So read about that. Offer ethics training. So you could do this, every year. You could have a training program. You could set up a training hotline for if someone sees something done unethically. So teaching your employees what could possibly be a breach of ethics. Establish a code of ethics. So a lot of companies, most of your bigger companies have a code of ethics. Now they're calling it a code of conduct and ethics a lot of times. So it tells employees, it can't cover everything, but it gives employees an idea of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I do have a bunch of these I can put up for you. So like, here's one from Campbell Soup. So basically, let me go back up here to the top of it. How about? Basically, this one's called Code of Business Conduct and Ethics. And the company will list at all times you are asked to do these things under the code, and getting people to speak up if they see something not right. Here's an integrity hotline they can call. This code of ethics, again, would be posted everywhere on their website, in their place of business, so people would see it. So this is a good proactive way for companies to do it. Now I've got a bunch more. Here's one from Hasbro. They have governance and ethics, and of course, if you're Hasbro, you're talking about games. So playing fairly, doing the right thing, that's going to be in their code code of ethics all the way through. So anyway, lots of examples of this out there that you could look at. Codes of ethics, all companies, big companies have them. So make the right decisions in situations that there are no simple right or wrong answers. You can do some self-test. First, ask yourself if the action is legal. So you certainly don't want to do something that's illegal and set yourself up to be charged with a crime. Next, ask yourself if the action violates the code of ethics. So, the company would say, yes, you can do or you can't do certain things, but a lot of things they don't even speak to, situations that you might be in. So the last thing, ask yourself if the action meets your ethical standards. So, lead by example is probably the best way that companies can do it. Our managers can do it. Set up a training program, set up a hotline, create a code of ethics. You do all that, and then there's still going to be an ethical dilemma that one of the employees gets into, and they're going to have to come back down to probably their ethical values, their moral code of conduct. So anyway, these are good to know for the quiz and for the test. So can't cover every situation, that with the ethics, code of ethics. So what if a company does not act ethically? And maybe you've tried to talk with your supervisors about that. Maybe it's something that's harming the public or harming the environment or whatever it might be. Well, as a result of Enron, we had some whistleblower laws go into effect. So this only applies to publicly traded companies that are out there. But a whistleblower is somebody who reports illegal activity within the firm to the press, to the government, or parties outside the firm. In other words, you're trying to report it inside the firm, you're getting no action, they're doing something illegal, and so you go to Channel 7 News or whatever it might be, or go to the local newspaper. And then when you do that, of course, there's going to be some retaliation. You're probably going to be fired. So in the Enron situation, they were trying to get people that blew the whistle, protection, so that they wouldn't be fired. So after that, they set up or they created the Sarbanes-Oxley Act 2002, protects whistleblowers who report corporate misconduct, so they can't be fired or retaliated against, given a bad work assignment or something, just because they were the whistleblower. So any executive who retaliates against whistleblower can be held criminally liable and imprisoned for 10 years. So again, this only applies to companies that have stock traded, publicly traded stock. So it doesn't cover all your little moms and pops around that you might work for, but there are some protections for whistleblowers out there. So let's see, what else did I put in here? That gives you an idea of ethics, though, and the second part of this chapter deals with social responsibility. So social responsibility is concerned by a business for the welfare of society and recognition that their business decisions have an impact on society. So we know that's for sure. Just everything we do in business as we operate is affecting the people around us, and it's affecting the environment around us. So I gave you a bunch of examples in here. Since 1992, Phillips 66 has funded Young Eagles, where over 2 million children aged 8 to 17 experienced their first ride in an airplane for free. I mean, General Mills has box tops for education, where they donate back to America's schools with equipment and computers and books and stuff. So, I mean, you can read through those. There are, again, hundreds and thousands of examples of companies that have given back. This is not something that's required. of companies, but you'll notice on just about every company's website now, there's there's usually a page about how they are involved or engaged in social responsibility. So back at the turn of the century, we weren't worried about workers. We weren't worried about how much, a typical work week was 60 hours a week. They didn't have overtime pay. They worked children in hazardous conditions. And so we've had a number of laws like the Fair Labor Standards Act requires a minimum wage of overtime if you work over 40 hours a week. So that didn't occur till 1938. So there are a lot of abuses that we have tried to curb in inside business, but through government regulation or legislation. But there's still lots more out there. But anyway, social responsibility, talking about giving something back. Here are the two models. This is not in your textbook, but here are the two ways things that managers believe. They can either believe in the economic model or the socioeconomic model. If you believe in the economic model, then you believe that all you should be doing is making money for stockholders. So the company's primary responsibility is make a profit for stockholders, not to solve society's problems. So again, most companies in the olden days would have been, most managers would have the economic model in mind. They're responsible for making the stockholders money, making profit for the company, and not anything like building homeless shelters or whatever it is. Okay, and then socioeconomic model, which most managers now fit in this category. Managers have a social responsibility, not only to stockholders, but also society and the environment in which they operate. So again, most managers take on this philosophy now, and they believe that, yes, it's not required that I am involved in social responsibility, but I am my company is going to be more profitable if I am involved with the community that I'm in. Okay, so here's some reasons people argue for social responsibility. So it says business is part of society. So, you got societal issues are going to be part of your everyday life. So why not be involved in those and in helping with those? Businesses have the financial resources. They make a lot of money. Voluntary involvement may benefit the company's employees, boost morale, keep the government from enacting legislation. That's a big one. I mean, they're being proactive. So while resolving social issues, businesses are also building goodwill. This one is probably the main reason for doing it, right? Though it's a good thing to provide food to the band or whatever it is, it also gets recognition for your company, and more people will come into your company and buy your product. Okay, so there are some again that are the economic model. They argue against social responsibility. Managers are primarily responsible to stockholders. That's the economic model, right? Businesses already pay taxes, so why shouldn't those taxes take care of social issues? So basically, read through the reasons for it and the reasons against, pros and cons of social responsibility. Philanthropy is a part of social responsibility. But I'm not talking about usually giving money, but that is a part of it. Usually when I'm talking about social responsibility, I'm talking about finding ways to be involved in your community to protect people and environment, and not so much as giving money, although that is part of it. So philanthropy, seeking out needy groups and then giving them money or company product, it can achieve the same goal of providing goodwill and long-term profitability. So this is called strategic giving, and it's pretty smart, giving to organizations that will somehow are related to your company or product that you're making, maybe, and you actually might see some of that money come back to your company eventually. Okay, consumerism, protecting the rights of consumers. You may have heard of Ralph Nader and how Ralph Nader was involved with. He's a consumerist, an advocate for consumers, and how he got seatbelts put in cars. So since the 70s, pretty much we've had seatbelts. But anyway, in 1962, JFK, John F. Kennedy, was making a speech, and in it he talked about a consumer bill of rights. And basically he said that you and I as consumers have these rights. We have the right to a safe product. So, on the product, there will be directions, and there'll be ingredients and all kinds of stuff on a label or in the packaging. But there are agencies like the Consumer Product Safety Commission that could pull a product off the shelves if it's unsafe, could fine companies if they're providing something that's unsafe. So the FTC, if something's being advertised a certain way, they can have make them do corrective advertising or fine them. So right to safe product, excuse me, the right to be informed. And again, I was just talking about labels. Labels have just changed in the last year or two, what they have to have on ingredients on a label. But anyway, you have the right to know what's in the product you're buying, the right to choose. We live in a capitalistic system, so you should have competitors out there, that give you choices of product, choices of prices, choices of warranty, and then the right to be heard. What if the product injures you? What do you do? Or what if the product fails? So customer service is big. How do you handle customer questions and complaints, which a lot of it's being done online now? If the product isn't working right, and or the company is not a good company, not fulfilling their end of the deal, Better Business Bureau is one way you could report them. Of course, now a lot of people are putting stuff out on Facebook and telling about this company did such and such for me. Good reviews, bad reviews. So, and then like if a product were to injure you, you have the right to hire an attorney and sue that company. So basically, there's more than this now, but if John F. Kennedy said you have the right to a safe product, the right to be informed what's in it, the right to choose between products, and the right to be heard if that product is not as advertised. So anyway, stakeholders, individuals or groups to whom a business has a responsibility. Well, here's a list of the people that we generally think of as we have a responsibility to in business: employees, customers, public, and investors. And it's just when it comes to your economic model or your socioeconomic model as to your belief in which one is most important. But okay, so you might want to read down. You will want to read down through here about some of those responsibilities. We have the Civil Rights Act 1964, forbids discrimination based on race, religion, color, religion, sex, national origin. I don't know why I didn't put national origin when it comes to hiring or promotions in the workplace. So we know discrimination is still a problem. Women are still not paid as much as men have been paid. Women make about 80 cents on every dollar that a man makes, and a lot of times they can't move up into a management position. We're seeing more of them being able to move up in a management position, but this is called the glass ceiling. You could get so far and then you couldn't move up into management. A lot of women have just decided, I'll start my own business after I've learned how this works. I'll start my own business and then I will hire women as well. So That's one way around the glass ceiling, but now we're seeing a lot of movement toward more women in top positions. Anyway, Congress created the EEOC, 1965 government agency, power to investigate complaints of employment discrimination and sue firms that practice it. So if you had a complaint where you were being discriminated against in your company, maybe when it comes to promotions or pay, you can always take it to the EEOC. Let's see what else we have here. What if you wanted to start a social responsibility program? How do you know it's working? Well, if you wanted to give certain amount of money back, or an event, or t-shirts at a game, or whatever, there are all kinds of things you could do. And at some point during the year, you're going to have what's called a social audit. First of all, the company's got to back this plan, right? The management has to back your social responsibility program, or it's not going to work. But at the end of the year, somebody has to sit down and decide, okay, is this something we need to be involved in next year? And so they do what's called a social audit. They look at how much money they invested in it, how much time it took, who was involved in it, and how many people did it help. And they may want to change from whatever they're doing this year to another type of investment in social responsibility. So anyway, the larger companies have a department that works on this and will do a social audit at the end of the year. And of course, they post it on their website and everything, so people will see that they're socially involved. So again, very short chapter, but make sure you read through the chapter. You can go through the chapter online and in the actual textbook and read more. I'll post some videos so you can see more about what happened in some of the older cases of ethics. But anyway, chapter 2, make sure you read through it.